I'll take my whiskey knee. Do. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Smiths on Demand. Make sure you like, subscribe, do all the things. We're super excited to come with this new video because as someone who has been through not one but two miscarriages, we have learned a lot about how to support each other during a first trimester. Each trimester was different. It got worse. The first one was bad. The second one was really bad. But we have learned so many different things. So we just want to share what those things are so that if you are an expecting couple or if you're someone who is also struggling with your first trimester, hopefully these tips and tidbits can help you.
Welcome to Couch Conversations.
Yo, yo, yo.
With Smiths on Demand.
We need a little
something.
Yeah, you know how we need like a little
Okay.
I'll come up with one. But I first want to talk about communication because one thing that Dre and I have always done really well is making sure that we communicate and like prepare and plan ahead of time. So from the very beginning, everyone used to tell us like, oh, you can't plan to have a baby. There's no perfect time. And we were like very adamant about being strategic and making sure that certain conversations were had, certain expectations were shared, and that we were on the same page with what we were wanting out of life as we transitioned into starting a family. So we created a document and all of our friends know this. They think it's funny, but also they have been using it as a method for themselves too. But me and Dre, anytime we communicate anything, we usually always have like a form of a spreadsheet or a document or a note created because I'm a firm believer that if you create a plan, it should be written down. It should be something you can go back, look at, and hold yourself accountable to. So we did a doc where I came up with my points of like my expectations or what I thought would support me. I had 8 items listed. Dre had 3.
What made this challenging in the first place was that we got pregnant the second time, like unexpected. Like we were not trying. We were sitting there like, when did this happen?
We were planning to try for baby second time in July. We found out we were pregnant in May.
Yeah, so we had a plan to sit down and talk about what we were going to do, what our expectations was going to be, how the last time went. But then it kind of just came and hit us, and we came out the gate stumbling as a couple, being on the same page. So that's when we developed what Bree is talking about.
Yeah, very, very valid point. It was one of those things where we're like, uh-oh, we forgot to prepare for this because we weren't preparing for it, right? Like we thought we had 2 more months before we were back in the first trimester boat. So my things that I listed and Dre's things that he listed, we talked it over. He agreed that the things on my list were doable. I agreed the things on his list were doable. And I think for the second time, we just had some unresolved things and feelings from our first experience and that first miscarriage that I don't think either of us really knew about. But then also keep in mind, as we are going through getting pregnant, having a miscarriage, getting pregnant, and then now going through basically the same experience as last time where we go to the appointment, we don't hear a heartbeat, but it's not a solid, you're having a miscarriage. They're like, well, it's faint. It's there, but it's not consistent. It was almost like giving us hope, but at the same time sending us home and being like, see ya in a few weeks. And that was the most hard part of everything because having to wait and not knowing what's happening, it just sucks because you're kind of just like in limbo. But the other part that was really, really hard was just how sick I was. And so it meant that the expectations I had of Dre were even heightened because I just couldn't take care of myself. I was struggling to literally, even just getting up and taking a shower was hard. Yeah. So it was just very difficult. So long story short, when it comes to the communication, it is important that after you express like, this is what I'm expecting or this is what I need, that you share examples and give like support to the person to be able to do that. So I'm going to try to think of one good example. Okay. So like, I had said food, right? Like since I don't have an appetite and all these things are happening, it's going to be moments where I'm sporadically really hungry and I need something like right away. But most of the time I'm going to be nauseous and I'm not going to want anything at all, but still try to like, get me to eat something. That is very vague, right? It's like food, make sure I'm eating. What I had to end up doing like a week or two after was like, okay, I had to be really specific. I was like, in the morning, when you wake up, brew me a cup of tea and just sit it on my nightstand. I don't care if it's cold by the time I wake up, just sit on my nightstand because that'll help me with like getting out the bed. And then second, my nausea is all day long, but it hits the hardest when I actually get up out of bed. So like if I stay in bed all day, the nausea is like doable. But the moment I put my feet on the ground, I stand up and I start moving, it's like someone threw me off a ship and I'm just like, whoa, out here. So I was like, toast. Just toast, one piece of toast. You don't have to put anything on it and just set that next to the tea. So if I'm waking up, I have my toast and I have my tea. So like that's the difference between saying like food and being like, here is an exact example of what I would like you to do. And it's something that's easy, effortless, but just show up in that way, right? So I would say that because we had to come back to the expectations and be like, you're not doing them. Why aren't you doing it? And get really, really, really clear on what that was. So, do you have anything else for expectations?
Yeah, so two things as far as expectation and communication. I would say that Bree and I have been together for 8 years now. Mm-hmm. And one thing this process taught me around expectations is something that people who are in relationships, they could take away from this. And it might sound weird in the beginning, but I think you'll understand it as I explain it, is a lot of people need to lower the expectations that they come into a relationship with. And it's not necessarily meaning lower your standards for the person you want to be with. It's instead of coming in with so much expectations, set the expectations within your relationship. Because really what expectations are is I expect you to know this without me communicating it to you. Right? And that's where we get in trouble. Think about it. When you're expecting somebody to do something, you're hoping or feeling that they should know how to do it without you actually saying to them, I need you to do this. And that's dangerous going into a relationship. So, or going into different phases of your relationship. So I think that's something that we learned, that it was like, okay, we went into this process expecting a lot of things from each other instead of coming into it and setting the expectation. So we kind of shifted mid this first trimester of going from, oh, we expected this of one another versus let's start setting the expectation for what we want. And that's what Bree described. So I would suggest to anybody as you're entering into relationships, as you're entering into different phases of your life in a relationship, go in with less expectations and go in willing to set expectations with each other. Because if you assume somebody's going to know something, that's when you'll start to get in trouble. And the second thing, based on what she said, is that we have some like unresolved things. One of my coaches in college always said that we're all like tea bags. You don't know what's in us until we're placed in hot water. And that's so true, like in relationships. And I tell people all the time that every moment in your relationship is like the brick that you're laying for the house your relationship would be in and built on. And the thing that sucks about problems in your home is that you don't understand it's a problem until the storm comes, right? That's when you figure out that this thing leaks if, rain comes and all that. So it's like for so long, Bree and I were like, we're good, we're happy. Like, and we were very happy, but we really thought we had an understanding of each other and knew each other all up and down, and there was no issues. But what we didn't realize is that there were some cracks in the foundation. There were some things in the roof that needed to be sealed. So when that storm came unexpectedly, our house was not prepared like we thought it was to, ride out what that storm and new phase of our life was going to be. So we had to realize like, okay, we need to get some help to patch some of this stuff up so that we understand the next time this storm comes that we are fully prepared. So I would encourage those people who are out there in relationships and looking for relationships, you are really building your stamina and endurance for your relationship in moments when things are good, right? Don't let things just pass by because you're in a good space and you don't want to address them. Like, constantly talk, constantly communicate, constantly try to get things right, even in the moments when the storm isn't there. Because when the storm comes, you want to make sure that your house is secured, your relationship is secured, and there are no cracks in the foundation. Because, like I said, it always sucks because you find out you have them cracks at the worst possible time that it could come because it's a storm already happening. So if you can try to figure out those things before the storm happens, it would definitely help the process.
Especially because the woman is not herself. Like, first trimester, I have not heard of many women say that, like, within their pregnancy, they didn't experience extreme, like, emotional roller coaster where it's like 1 minute you're happy, 1 minute you're sad. And I had gotten to the point where everything Dre did irritated me and everything he didn't do irritated me. The thought of him just irritated me. And I had no, like, logical explanation for why. It was just, I had, like, my spirit was just so irritated. And I think it has a lot to do with, like, the hormones and just overall emotion and the act of, like, feeling alone. Like, first trimester or just getting pregnant in general, it feels very alone because even though your partner is going through it with you, they're not physically experiencing what you're experiencing. And so it's like, it's hard to explain, but you want them to feel like they're going through it with you. So I remember at times I would try to explain to him what I was feeling, but, like, if his response was just like, oh, okay, or, you know, like, whatever the response was, I was never happy with the response. It was just always feeling like I'm in this alone, I'm in this alone, I'm in this alone. And so I really do think it's important for couples, as you're starting a family and going through, like, that first pregnancy, for girls, for you to have a support system, whether it be like a community of others, you know, pregnant moms, or friends who have kids actively, who have gone through it multiple times. Like, you just need an outlet to feel like you're not alone, because it does feel very isolating. So the next thing I want to talk about is the research, because I feel like if you know better, you do better. And I'm more so talking about the men here, because since you are not actively going through the physical journey, it is nice to know, as the woman going through it, that your husband has an understanding of what is happening to your body, right? So, I mean, with ChatGPT, everything and anything is accessible. You type in a question. So if the woman is being hormonal and you don't understand why she's randomly crying, you can go ask ChatGPT. You could say, my wife is 7 weeks pregnant. She's crying a lot. What should I do, or why is this happening? And it's going to explain to you exactly what is happening and what you can do to support her in that phase. And so the same way, like, men, when you guys get obsessive with things, Dre's thing is always technology. He will research that thing up and down. He will watch tons of tutorial videos. He will do trial and error testing on that thing. He will spend hours diving into that thing because the interest is there. So I think it helps a woman who's actively going through pregnancy to feel like her husband is invested and interested in what she's dealing with. So having some knowledge and information. One of the apps that we used our first go round, because again, we were tracking and trying to get pregnant, was Flow. And the cool thing about Flow is it showed you every week what was happening, and it kind of just gave, like, a really brief snippet of, like, this is exactly what's happening to your body, this is what's going on with the baby, and this is what you can expect within the next coming days. That allowed both of us to kind of have information and kind of be like, oh, this is what's happening. And it just kind of helped with, like, being on the same page. So whatever it is that you and your partner need, do that. But I do think research is important. My first trimester, I read what to expect when you're expecting. And that book was really good, very vague, but overall just a healthy book to read on the go, or listen to. I used to listen to it when I would walk to the gym, and it just would, like, kind of get me excited for certain things, because I think pregnancy can be really scary. So finding things that you could read or listen to that talks about all the exciting, cool things that are happening is helpful as well.
No, I agree. I think it's twofold from a male perspective. I think that the research will definitely give you an idea of what's happening, but I think research can be done in a lot of ways, right? You can do things like looking up on Google or talking to ChatGPT. and it's giving you or painting a picture of what she may be going through. And I think one of the main advantages of that is just her, like Bree said, feeling like you're in it with her and that you are trying to figure it out and you're trying to help her out. But I think once you get in it and are physically going through it and experiencing it, having the not necessarily research, but having other men who have gone through it, who really are about their wives, who really are about their kids, as a resource would be very helpful because it's a lot of emotions going on. And like Bree said, it's kind of hard to, when your partner is going through something, especially physically, it's kind of hard, and hormonally, it's very difficult because you physically still see the same person, right? Like that's the person I married, that's my wife, that's my partner. However, they are a completely different person based off of their levels and hormones and the different things they're physically going through. So it's kind of hard to mentally separate that, oh, this is a completely different moment in their life. So therefore, how they act emotionally, the things they're going through physically, their reactions to you, their perception of you, like all these things are changed where you're kind of dealing with a different human being who in this moment has different needs and different wants at this time and period. And you have to understand that, but when you're in it, it does take an adjustment because the outer shell is still the same person that you've always known them to be, right? So having other men that have gone through the process that can let you know sometimes, like, first, you're not crazy, right? Pretty much all of our friends that we talk to have gone through the same thing with their
They kind of
husbands.
laughed and were like, yeah,
Yeah, like
get used to it.
husbands making the adjustment as you know the wife is adjusting to the physical that it's happening. Like it's all just a normal and natural thing because a lot of things are instinctually for us as men that we're trying to do and now have to take on aren't necessarily supernatural for us. So there's a period of us having to try to figure out what to do, and rightfully so your wife or partner might get upset at you, right? For not doing things and dropping the ball. Like I did it myself. I didn't do everything great or perfect. Our last experience with it. So it's like it's definitely an adjustment period, but having people that you can talk to and help you through it will definitely make the process a lot better. And understanding or trying not to take anything to heart that she is saying or feeling in that moment because it is driven from a place that it's like not probably actually how she feels once she snaps out of all the stuff.
I want to give an example too of like how like spiraling thoughts can be. So like there was a situation where Dre like he walked out the apartment and there was like a Whole Foods bag sitting on the console table. And my thought went to, oh my God, he's not going to be able to take care of our kids. How am I going to have kids with this man? He just walked past the bag and didn't throw it away. Like, it's like the spiral thoughts were intrusive. I was like, what is happening? And I remember saying to him, I was like, well, if this is what pregnancy is like, having kids is going to be ridiculous. And he was like, what? And it was over. It's something so silly, but it's like, you're just in this like worrisome state, at least for me. For women who did not experience this, good for you. Good for you. It was not fun. But I do want to say this. Getting pregnant and starting a family is a major life transition. And Dre and I were going through that as we were also navigating one of the biggest life transitions that we've ever had in 8 years of marriage or in 8 years of being together, which was that I let go of my full-time business and was not, we literally were like, you don't prioritize making money. You just focus on getting and having a happy, healthy baby. And when that happens, right, what a blessing to be like, wow, like you're going to let me retire my business and just focus on becoming a mom. But then imagine going through a miscarriage once and then going through it again, that level of almost pressure, again, totally not self-regulated. What's the word?
What? Like you brought it on yourself, essentially.
Totally self-assigned. I
Works.
assigned that pressure to me all on my own. He was not thinking about that at all. But for me, I just felt like the utmost failure because I was like, I'm not bringing in income, failure. I have one job, make a baby, failure. Like it takes a lot of your mental and emotional and physical energy to like wake up every day and try to be like the best version of yourself when you're going through these two very, very different life transitions at the same time. And then on the other hand, as a man, he's like, I'm holding down the fort, right? I'm working, but I'm working from home full time and then also trying to tend to your needs and take care of you. So like he's also going through a major life transition where he's solely responsible for income, and then where he's solely responsible for the house, which he does a lot of things well. Tending to the entire house, cooking, cleaning, and work, it's not his ministry. So it's like both of us going through these very difficult transitions at the same time with two totally different perspectives and feelings. It was a lot, which brings us to the next point, which is seeking outside like professional help, because Dre mentioned finding people who have gone through it because they can relate, they can give advice, they can let you know you're not crazy, you're not alone. But professional advice, specifically prenatal therapists, I had done a lot of research to figure out like, okay, how can we make sure that not only do we get through this miscarriage, but that we properly process and grieve it, because we were very good with the first one. Like even when I was at the appointment getting the surgery, I didn't cry not once. Second go around, bawling tears, had no idea what was wrong with me. Everyone was worried. And it was just a completely night and day difference. And so we were like, how do we make sure we process, we heal, we deal, we move on, and then we do it again, but better? And after doing the research and after reaching out to a few people, majority of them, especially the women of color, they didn't work with men. They only provided prenatal therapy for the woman. And I specifically wanted to do couples counseling around it. And so we were like, just casually talking about it. And I think I was the one that mentioned like, what if we just go back to your parents? Because for those of you who don't know, Dre's parents did our premarital counseling for almost 2 years leading up to our marriage. And it was amazing. At first I was like, do I want to tell your parents every little thing about me? Because y'all know I'm a reformed gangster. Okay. So I was like, they're going to find out I'm a thug and they're going to be like, oh no, Dre, what have you gotten yourself into? But it was honestly the best because there was no biasness. They are very much to the book. And when I say to the book, I'm talking about the Bible. So everything is God driven. It is the entire foundation of everything that they taught us, and every tool they put in our toolbox came from that. Yeah. So when I mentioned it, Dre was like, yeah, let's just do it. And literally he was like, we're going tomorrow.
I was like, I have the relationship with my parents to where sitting and talking about things was like pretty much what we did. Like that was our bonding. That's how we operate in our home. So when she was like my parents, I was like, all right, this is a Sunday evening for me. So that's fine. Like I don't care.
I didn't know because we had not done any counseling with them since being married. So I just thought like it would be like a boundary for him, but it was nice that it wasn't. And again, we are very fortunate to have, especially me, to have in-laws who are just so wise, so kind, so level-headed, so God-fearing, to where they can really help us unpack and deal with things. And what's funny is every time we've gone to a session with them, they don't actually tell us what to do at all. They don't give any answers. They don't tell us if we're right, if we're wrong, none of that. It's very much like, this is the principle. And then from that, we're able to then walk away and know exactly how to deal with the situation, because it's not about being right or wrong. And that was one thing that after we sat in that 4-hour long session, it was like 4 hours straight too. After we sat through that 4-hour session, I was like, wow, I didn't even know how much I needed it as much as I did personally. Like it helped me more as Bree, the person, the individual, then Bree the wife, and then like us as a unit. But it was mind-blowing. So we're going to share some of our notes from that session.
Yeah, it was definitely helpful. I think sometimes talking to somebody can be very helpful in a lot of different ways. Some people need specific, problems that they're working through, but other times a lot of us just need a recharge. we just need, it's kind of like when you have a car, like you go to get your annual checkups. Like you can do certain things on your own. You can put oil in your car. You can fill the wiper fluid up. If you need to change a light, you could possibly change a light. But sometimes you need that hard like reset and recharge and refuel from an outside source that can really get you back on track. And I think for us, the session was less about this is what you need to do to solve your current problem versus like this is your reminder of what you know to be true versus thinking about how you're feeling based off of your emotions.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need that somebody to just be like, first to hear you out so that you can say your part in a place to where you don't feel judged and you don't feel like there is a bias, but then that person can see through all of the surface stuff, right? And actually get to the root of the problem to say, this is what the real issue is. And you just need to be reminded of what you should be focused on and what you should not be focused on. And that's why we thought it was like really helpful.
Oh, I thought it was funny. They were like, go ahead. Like, you guys share what you came to share. And I'm like, I probably talked for like 30, 45 minutes straight. And then they're like, okay, DeAndre. And he's like, and we say all these things. Pop goes, opens up the Bible, goes right into scripture. And essentially the first thing that he said to us was, go off of what you know to be true. Like, basically, y'all are talking a lot about feelings.
I didn't talk a lot.
You did talk a good amount. I had a lot to talk about. Because I was the one suffering, okay? But I had all these things. Dre had all these things. And then Pop's like, y'all are talking about how you made each other feel, feelings. And he was like, focus on what you know to be true. And he goes, Bree, do you love Dre? And I was like, yes. Do you know Dre loves you? I'm like, yes.
You say yes, sir.
And I just, oh, we gotta talk about the frog thing too. But I'm like, yeah, of course, yes, that is my boy. But it's like, I also don't like him right now. But anywho, that was the very first thing that they said. And it was so like simple, but so deep because all of my feelings was based off of feeling. Like, none of it was based off of like facts. None of it was based off of the history of our relationship. None of it was based off of who my husband actually is. It was just all wrapped in feelings. So a few notes.
And I will explain what they meant by that too. Is like when you know something, it doesn't change what happens, but it first changes how you receive things, right? If you know somebody truly loves you, then instead of receiving it as if it's something done out of malice, you would think it's something done out of not knowing or ignorance or, them not really truly understanding what impact it has on you. But then also how you communicate. If you know somebody loves you, you will communicate as, hey, we are both on the same team here. I'm not communicating with you as if you're the enemy. But if you go based off of your feelings, if you're angry at that time, you're not talking to that person like they're somebody who loves you or you're somebody who loves them. You're talking as somebody who is angry and upset at somebody. And that's when we end up doing things in our relationship that we end up regretting or saying things that we truly can't take back. So I talked to Bree. We were like, yep, put the emotions could be in the car, but don't let them be in the driver's seat.
Which it'd be three of them driving at the same time. One got their foot on the gas, one got their foot on the brake, and one is just trying to control the music. And it's like, it's a hot mess. We're not getting anywhere. It's just chaotic.
And then what she know, the love is in the back, like...
Seatbelt on, like, please.
Or for the ride, like, please, slow down, stop.
But I want to read this. So Dre's mom shared the parable of the blind men and an elephant. So as I read through this, remember that our elephant at this time was us going through a second miscarriage, essentially. It's a story of a group of blind men who have never come across an elephant before and who learn and imagine what the elephant is like by touching it. Each blind man feels a different part of the elephant's body, but only one part. They describe the animal based on their limited experience, and their description of the elephant are all different from each other. The moral of the parable is that humans have a tendency to claim absolute truth based on their limited subjective experience as they ignore other people's limited subjective experiences, which may be equally true. On this visual, you can see that there's someone who is touching the trunk and they're like, oh, this is a snake. Then you have one who's touching the side of the elephant and he's like, this is a wall. I'm touching a wall. Then you have one who is touching the tail and he's like, it's a rope. So if one's like it's a snake, one's like it's a wall, and one's like it's a rope, none of them are technically wrong, right? From their limited perspective. But if they take the blindfolds off and step back, they all will see that it is an elephant. So I thought that was a really, really great way for her to take all of our feelings and everything that we had talked about and be like, you guys are looking and dealing with the exact same thing. Like the experience, the situation is this thing. But because you all have your own perspectives and you're only seeing and feeling and experiencing what you are, because I'm not him and he's not me, we're butting heads instead of coming together and dealing with it in a healthy way. So that was very, very helpful for me. I'm a visual person, and that whole thing just changed the game for me. I think that's not true just in marriage, but in friendships and in relationships with family members. Like, that is such a good analogy. I'm obsessed. But anyways.
It works for every part of your life.
Yeah.
I always say you can't understand the full picture of something unless you're able to see it from different perspectives. And that's essentially what this is. And that's, luckily, I've had the parents that I've had that have instilled that in me a lot, of like making sure you try to see things for different perspectives. But when emotions get involved, it does cloud your judgment sometimes and makes it very hard to do that. Because, I mean, in this example, we use an elephant, but it could be something that's, let's say, more physically hurtful, right? And you want your experience to be acknowledged because there is pain in your experience. There are things that you are feeling. Your experience is real. And when somebody seems to, whether purposely or not purposely, discount your experience, then you get more emotional and angry, upset about that on top of the pain that you're already feeling. But then sometimes that will make us lose sight of that somebody else could be feeling the same thing. And that's one thing that we discovered when we, sat down and talked, is that the way that we were feeling about each other was the exact same feeling. It was just manifesting itself in different ways within our relationship. So again, having the time to talk it out and going back to what do we really know about each other, and what do we know is going on, and what do we know about the situation? Because I think it goes further than knowing that we love each other. It's also talking about the research that Bree is talking about. It's like, if you know during this time when women get pregnant that this is a possibility, or hormones do change, like those are things that you know. When you know more things, then you won't be out there like guessing about what this could be or what this couldn't be.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the analogy that she gave about the kids on a roller coaster?
Yeah, she talked about when I was in middle school, and there was a principal, my middle school principal, told them as parents that, I guess this, I don't want to mess it up, but essentially that middle school is a lot and it's a roller coaster for kids. And she suggested parents not to ride the roller coaster with them, but be there for them when they get off, essentially. And I thought that that was definitely more applicable for me, because obviously I am not physically going through all the things that Bree is going through in the relationship. So part of how she's feeling is not only just a physical feeling of what she's going through, but there are hormonal changes. And at times, it's definitely a real thing. And not saying it's never not real, but it's a roller coaster. Like, the emotions are heightened, right? Like, in her normal state, something could happen and she may not even care, right? But In this state, if something happened, like it could be from up here to down here to go from yelling to crying. Like it's like it could be all over the place. So for me, it's like I know and set the expectation within the relationship that this is going to be in a roller coaster, especially emotionally for her. What I have to do is keep my mind steady and saying instead of riding all the ups and downs completely with her, I just have to be there for her when she comes off and when she needs me, especially like Bree said, while she's going through what she's going through, I'm working, but then I got to try to, get her food and do this. So my brain is in a lot of different places and it will make all of what I have to do much more difficult if I have to ride the roller coaster with her all the time as she's going through the different changes her body's going through.
Yeah, here's another tip for my ladies. I was doing this thing where I was trying to hide how much I was crying because I didn't want him to feel bad for me, or I don't know. I don't know if I was embarrassed. I don't know what it was, but I was crying so much. Like at least, and when I say crying, not like a tear, it would be like sobbing, crying, like face wet, crying at least 5 to 6 times a day. And I would usually go do it in my bathroom because I knew if I like did it in the bed, he could like walk in and just like see me. So I would like cry my hiding, or I would hide my crying so that I don't know, like maybe I didn't feel like as much of a burden, but at the same time, I would be upset when he would do or not do certain things because I'm like, I'm crying all day long. I can't go to the gym. I blah, 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 blah. And you're doing X, Y, and Z. And it's like, he has no idea that I've cried 6 times today. So it's also like, if you say you don't want to be alone and you want your person to go through it with you, you have to actually allow them to go through it with you. And I should have been communicating how much I was crying and coming to him when I was crying and giving him an opportunity to console me versus me making myself feel like I'm alone. And then now I'm projecting all these things onto him that he's not even aware of, right? So that, and then
I'll say too is that like I encourage people because from my perspective, especially as a man, like I encourage people, especially women, if you're in a relationship, if you're truly feeling something, don't in the presence of your husband try to be strong and hold it together because he needs those indicators to know what the true stakes are of how you're feeling, because a lot of times you'll get in a position, which happened with us, to where you'll be like, I'm not showing you how I truly feel because I'm trying to hold it together, but then at the same time I'm mad at you for not understanding what the stakes truly are. But I'm like, if you're trying to hide how you're feeling, how am I supposed to know how you're feeling? The quickest way for me to snap out of whatever you are saying I'm doing, or for a man to snap out of whatever thing you're saying he's doing and ignoring how you feel, is if you start crying and that man loves you, whatever he's doing is going to stop, because he's going to try to figure out what in the world is going on and what could I do to help stop this? What do you need from me? Because as somebody who loves their wife, you crying, like, it's kind of like a parent with a child. It's like, where's he at? What was like? Let me at him. Like, what got my baby crying? Like, that's the feeling that a man who loves his wife will truly feel. So don't hide that emotion from him if you're going through that, because that's his indicator, right? That's his thing to understand and know, like, oh, something is wrong. I need to pay more attention to this.
yeah, and then I think one of the hardest things is if you're a woman who in your first trimester is very sick and is told not to work out and to do like limited activity and to listen to your body and all those things, it's pretty hard to be in a good, healthy mental state because if your activity is taken away, if you're not able to get up and go for walks or like have sun on your face or work out or do the things that bring you joy and excitement, it just feels like you're just not yourself. And when you're not yourself, the one person who you should be able to lean on is your husband. So I would vocalize often to Dre that like I was very upset that I couldn't do all those things, but when I was forcing myself to do them, it would end up in me throwing up, crying because I couldn't make it through a workout, or it just made me feel even worse about myself. So I had to just be okay with like being still. But when I do it all again, when we have another first trimester, one of the things I'm really prioritizing is just my mental and not relying on physical as much. So simply just like getting up and doing like a 5-minute journal / meditation stretch, and just like being active in my personal space, so that if I do that, I can feel accomplished, versus having this goal of like, I'm going to walk 30 minutes to the gym. And then when I get there, I'm going to take a Pilates class and I'm going to walk all the way back. And it's like, girl, no, you're not. And when you try and you don't do it, you're going to feel like you failed and you're going to not feel confident in yourself. So it's worse. So it's almost like rewiring your brain to start with the very little small things that bring you joy, and then slowly start to allow yourself to build up. And I heard once you get past the first trimester, the second is a glow up. So pray for me. But I do want to touch on this, and this is the last thing I want to share, is his mom talked about this mountain and hill analogy of how, like, in order to get to the top of the mountain, it takes climbing, but in order to get to the top of the next mountain, you have to go down into the valley and then back up. And so it's this thing where essentially she was like, girl, you at the top of the mountain, and instead of going back down to get back up, you're trying to spend all your time and energy on figuring out how you're going to jump from this top to that next mountaintop. So much so that you're wasting your time, energy, resources. If you would have just went down, you'd have came back up by now. But I was being very stubborn, and this is just in how I was living life and how my mindset was. It was like, no, I'm going to figure out a way to get there quicker, smarter, with less energy, less effort. And I don't got to go down there. And I missed 5 different mountaintops just by staying up on this one, trying to cheat my way onto the next one. So I thought that was a really good analogy.
Yeah, I think it really boils down to process. Like, so many people, and I think that's why a lot of people have trouble with relationships today, is so many people want to avoid going through the process that it takes to get to the next mountaintop. Like Bree said, you start on this one mountaintop, but in order to get to the next one, the process is climbing down, climbing back up. But there are challenges between descaling, or whatever you call it, going down the mountain, descending the mountain, but also ascending back up to the next mountain. Everybody wants to skip. As you progress in business, as you progress in your career, as you progress in maturity, it's kind of almost like we feel this obligation or this feeling that we don't need to now go through the process, and we should circumvent what it actually takes to get to the next mountaintop. But process is such a big thing in a relationship, and that's an expectation that you should come into a relationship with, is that every new season, every new thing that you go through in your relationship is going to be a process. It takes time to figure out. Like, one of the biggest things that I told her in this process is like, yeah, I'm not nailing it. We're not seeing eye to eye, but it's okay, because this is part of the process. This is a new experience for us. This is something that we haven't done before. Even in the second try, like, you haven't ever been this sick, when we did it the first time. So everything is new, and people want, for some reason, when they're doing something new, for it to just be smooth and easy and seamless, especially when you're dealing with another human being and their emotions. And that's just not how it works. So the mountain analogy and hills analogy is so great, because it's really talking about that there's a process when it comes to anything. And also, the sense of accomplishment and true happiness doesn't come from when you're jumping from mountaintop to mountaintop. It comes from when you descended and all the work that took, and then ascended and all the work that took, and you reached the mountaintop, especially as a couple together. That's when you have those true moments of happiness. So although we went through a tough time, like, we took some time off, took a little vacation, and that was some of the best time we had together. And there wasn't any, they say drama is unresolved conflict. There wasn't any drama. We resolved the conflict. We talked about it. So the space that we were truly in that moment, was so great and so amazing. But guess what? We wouldn't have known that we even had the issue if the storm didn't come, the roof didn't leak, and we knew we need to patch that part of our relationship. So now going into it after the storm, our house is in a much better situation and our relationship is a much better situation to where there is no petty jabs. There is no receiving something wrong because we address what the true issue is. But that's just part of the process. Like, you have to be able to go through that process in order to get on the other side of what you actually need.
And it's kind of like if you live on top of the mountaintop, sooner or later you're gonna start to not appreciate the view, right? You're gonna be like, oh, this old thing. But when you're in the trenches, when you're in the valley and you're climbing back up, it's gonna make getting to that view feel so much worth it, so much more valuable, so much more precious. And so I think that's what happened with us, was like, we've had a really great, and I would say easy, marriage, because we don't really have problems like this. And going through it, one, it made me be like, whew, okay, well, we're real. Because everyone always would tell us, like, girl, once you get married, it gets hard. And like, we've had a very easy marriage in a sense of like happiness and fulfillment and being on the same page and just enjoying doing life together. But going through something like that, it makes me even more grateful for the marriage that I have. So yeah, I mean, big shout out to Mom and Pop, because y'all did y'all big one. And I left just feeling so encouraged. I remember I texted my friends saying that I just felt like God himself hugged me. Like, I felt like his arms were up around me and just tell me it's going to be okay. And like, you are mine and everything will be fine. But that's what happens when you have minister parents who love the Lord. It was much needed. But my last tip, because this was something that I just thought of that was such a struggle for me. During that first trimester, and this happened both times, I got really bloated and fluffy, like everywhere. And I don't know if it was that I felt I was or if I physically was, but there were times where I physically was like, Dre, look, I look like I'm 3 months pregnant. And I know I'm not. Like, I know I'm not showing. I know that that's not that. But like, I was so uncomfortable in my skin just due to all of the hormonal stuff that was happening, that but when I get pregnant the next go around, we are going to set aside a budget for just some loose, comfy, swaggy type of like clothes, because everything I put on, I felt like a balloon that was just like getting blown up and was about to like pop. It was just so uncomfortable. Like, I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want to go anywhere. So I would say, if you start to see that like you two are bloating, just get some comfy, larger clothes versus not leaving your house. Because I think like me not leaving the house was hard on me mentally, and then harder on him. Because then if he would go out, he would feel guilt, because he's like, dang, like, Brie at home, like in the same spot she was when I left, and you know, she ain't seeing her friend, she's not doing nothing. Which takes me to my last tip, which is, guys, men, husbands, baby daddies, do things to help your girl out. So when I was down in the dumps, and like, I would say, like, I just feel like I haven't seen anyone, I just feel so alone, like, but it's like, oh, why don't you go? And I'm like, no, like, I don't want to be seen, I don't want to leave the house. It would have been really nice for my friends to just like come over and see me, or for Dre to hit up the girls and be like, y'all know Brie has been struggling, she over here, she look a hot mess. If y'all could just like come over, maybe bring a few different little, like, you know, snacks or something, like hopefully maybe she'll eat one of them or some of them, but like, can y'all just come and hang out with her? Like, having other people in my space, I think would have helped me not feel so alone. And it wasn't like anybody knew like, oh, Brie feels alone, let's do this thing for her. So I do think that next go round, I will do better with communicating when I'm lonely, to be like, friends, I'm lonely, but I don't want to go outside. Can you guys just come over and can we have a girls' day at my house? Or telling Dre, like, I don't feel like being outside. Can we like do a date night tonight just in the house on the couch? Or little things like that, to feel like, again, you're not alone, while also not feeling like you don't have another option. So yeah, those are all my tips. Hopefully we don't come back with a third one, and hopefully we make it all the way through next time. But do you have anything else that you feel you want to share?
I just think everything will be okay. Like, it's not, you're not going through something that nobody, no matter how it feels, you're not going through something that's other people have not been through. Thousands, millions, hundreds of millions of people over the existence of time. Like, pretty much, it's like, I think the Bible, Solomon says, it's nothing new under the sun. Like, no matter how far you go back, it's like the course of human history. Like, we've all gone through these types of things before. So everything will be okay, even though in the moment it might seem like a challenge, as long as you guys remember and know that you love one another and treat each other with that love and do your best to try to figure it out. Like, everything will work itself out. Just try to be as kind as you could possibly be and rely on those resources, those trusted resources around you that can help you recharge. Because in these moments, like, I think one thing that we realize is that getting that recharge to go back out there and, you know, get that fresh perspective is needed. Like, you're going to need time to, like, go out, hang out with friends, or talk to somebody, or take your mind off of what's going on so that you could come back and be refreshed to be there for your person. So everything will be okay.
Yes. So if you haven't already done so, go check out our first 2 miscarriage videos where we share openly pretty much the entire experience, and how we processed, how we dealt, and how we got to where we are now to trying again.
Yes.
Soon, hopefully. Again, watch the other 2 videos. It'll explain.